joined this morning by two CNN legal analysts, Shan Wu, former lawyer for Rick Gates, a former federal prosecutor, and Laura Coates, a former federal prosecutor as well. Let's assess these closing arguments, Shan. I've heard the prosecution's closing statements referred to as dry, but highly based on the documents and factual, and the defense, once again, trying to discredit Rick Gates and went the political direction. Which do you think landed more solidly with the jury?
I think the defense had a little bit better of the closing arguments. I think they were quite focused and made some specific points, which can be rare for defense counsel. Sometimes you just get a lot of hot air with the defense counsel trying to muddy up the waters, but they were quite focused. They made the points really attacking the bank fraud loans. They didn't work too much the character assassination angle on Gates, but rather pointing out that he has the motive to fabricate and what you can trust, what you can't trust. So I thought they did the better of it. Not unexpected that the prosecution would be a little bit dry. They have a lot of material to cover. The one thing that I thought was significant was that it seemed like the prosecution did use a lot of generalities, really trying to make the words overwhelming and lies do a lot of work. So I think the defense did a good job of countering that with some specifics.
Laura, there was, a lot of talk. It wasn't entirely surprising, but about the fact that the defense really didn't mount any defense, as we know, that we heard from Paul Manafort, but didn't hear from him in terms of testimony. A jury is never supposed to look at someone not taking the stand as impacting what they see. And yet, are there ever instances where it does come into play in that thought process, in your experience?
Well, of course there are. You see, the issue here is, well, you are instructed not to take that into account or to hold it against the person. It does leave the natural human being, which the jury is comprised of, to ask themselves, well, why are you not taking the stand to defend yourself? If you're telling me the person I should not believe is Rick Gates or any of the people who testified, your accountant, etc., and that you are telling me that you are this political operative who simply was duped by delegating authority to people that you thought you could trust who ultimately betrayed you, well, then I want to hear from you as to whether I think you're a credible person or that you could have been duped by a minion. And so the jury will look at these different issues and try to grapple with that particular point. But to Sham's point about the upper hand versus defense and the prosecution, remember, this case is very document heavy. As John talked about, their main case here was to say and deflate the impression that Rick Gates was at all the star witness or the linchpin here. It was the documents. It were the accountants. It were the people who don't have the skeletons in the closet and have not had the more salacious type of testimony. And for the prosecution, they're going to try to get that out of the jury to see it's very dry, but it's also cut and dry, whether you paid Uncle Sam or you did not.
Jen, what signs will you be looking for in the next couple of days, maybe couple of hours, I should say, to see which way the jury is leaning?
I think it'll be significant what kinds of questions they may put forth. If they want any kinds of clarifications about, for example, DOJ policies, because there was a theme of jury nullification that the defense did try to use, suggesting this wasn't the normal kind of procedure that would be used, a kind of a selective prosecution issue, that would be a troubling sign for the prosecution. On the other hand, if they want more instructions or would like to see certain exhibits again, that's probably a good sign. It means they are focusing on the documents. I mean, I would note that the nullification did draw kind of a rebuke from the judge. He says he plans to tell the jury not to focus on the motives of the prosecution.
I do want to get your take, both of you, on this before we let you go. So in an interview with Bloomberg, Rudy Giuliani saying, quote, this is, of course, talking about the Mueller investigation as we shift gears here, if he doesn't get it done in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we will just unload on him like a ton of bricks. Write the damn report so we can see it and rebut it. Laura, we'll throw that one to you. As we know, Rudy Giuliani has been trying to really make this point about this 60-day window. Of course, the president is not on the ballot. It doesn't mean things can't happen behind the scenes. When he puts out there, write the damn report, we're going to unload on you like a ton of bricks, that provokes some interesting responses.
And here's one. The idea that you're going to rebut it means that you think it's a foregone conclusion of your own client's guilt. See, it's not even a coded reference or an attempt to suggest that he is open-minded to an objective report that may or may not implicate his client. And so to say that, write it, we already have a defense prepared, it seems to me that you're suggesting that we should have, as the American people, some insight into what Mueller's thinking, although there has been painstaking contortions by Rod Rosenstein with every single indictment against the 12 GRU agents, against people who are Russian nationalists, to say that this is not referencing Donald Trump specifically. You still see Rudy Giuliani saying, I already have a report written that I'm going to rebut whatever it is you find, following on this theme of a witch hunt.
Laura Coach,
There we go.
great to have you with us again. Juries go into the deliberation chamber in a couple hours here. We know you're on standby to help us understand the verdict when it comes in. Appreciate it.
Thank you.